there's something more in me, and I need to be able to express. What did that process look like for you?
I knew as a child that I was supposed to be in the creative space. I knew that. And I had a lot of success very young. And even with that success, I still had the social pressures around me to follow a conventional lifestyle. As you mentioned, go to school, get an education, get a great job, get the house with the white picket fence kind of thing. And I followed that to a T. I went to school. I put all of my arts to the side, went to school, ended up with 4 college degrees. And the reason for that is because I kept going back to school because I was like, okay, this doesn't make me happy. So there's got to be another degree that's going to make me happy, until I realized that that's not how it works. Yeah. And I had set the goal to, land a 6-figure job by 30, and that was able to do that. And so many other things. And even with all of that, I had a moment in time where I was like, Lord, I just want this lifted off of me. I was suffering with severe depression for 10 years. And I just needed to be at peace. And the journey in which God led me down was back to the arts. And I realized in that moment, I had lost the way in which I spiritually connected. As I had mentioned before, once I found that, I was like, oh, I get it. This is my space here, Yeah. And once I started to make that connection again and understand my personal spiritual process and connection, then so much more started to open up for me. My gift of discernment started to open up more. I realized that I'm an empath. I didn't even know that. Yeah, I'm an empath, all right. Let me tell you, it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. And yeah. But it's a blessing. I can use it in a way of blessings. And I realized also that I was not meant to live a conventional life, and I had to be at peace with that. So that has been my process. That is when I realized that I needed to reconnect again. And this was my walk. And I also realized that I'm at peace, and I understood that I didn't have to know every step.
Yes.
As long as I knew what the next step was going to be, I'm fine. Right. I can make that right next step and be okay with that.
And I think I don't want to assume anything, but I feel like, especially when you've come from a corporate environment, you plan to a T. And
oh Lord,
right, type A over here. And so your natural inclination is to want to know all the steps, everything that you need to do, and have your plan laid out before you can act and take another step, or before you can even trust the process that is the journey that has been designed for your life. And I think it's so important to note that it doesn't work that way. And that was something that was really hard for me to come to terms with. Like you said, just opening yourself to the realization that I'm probably just going to know the next step, and the rest is going to feel unknown. And the unknown can feel scary, but have faith and know that you're going to be okay. And I love that you also pointed out the fact that you had to surrender to the fact that your journey did not look like everyone else's and was not going to be conventional, because that's something that we usually just gloss over, like, oh, I have to be okay with it. But that's huge. Especially when society, parents, friends, family, school, all of the systems and structures that make us and mold us into the people that we are telling you that you have to be a certain way. And you know within you that you cannot show up authentically or be yourself if you're conforming to that. That's a scary space to be in. It's an intimidating place to be in, because you're literally going against the grain, and you have to stand up for yourself, because people are going to question your decisions. Like you said, you had hit the point where you were making 6 figures before 30. People dream of that, right? And so now you're finding yourself in a place where you have to, or at least even just feel like you have to justify your mere existence, or just the way that you have decided that you need to show up.
Yep. And I laughed and giggled because everything you were saying, I could relate to a T. I'm like, oh my goodness, she's describing my story too. Like, I get it. You are absolutely correct. You nailed it. And I struggled with that. I felt bad because I was aware that I'm blessed, right? I was aware that I was in a situation that a lot of people would pray for. Mm-hmm. And I felt bad for walking away from it. And what I realized was I did work for that, for those successes. It wasn't just handed to me at all. It was hard work put into that. And I realized that I had invested all those years to build in that right. But what I also realized was I was flourishing, but I was not really flourishing because I was not in the right space. I had built in the wrong space. Yeah. I take nothing from that experience. I mean, nothing, I don't take anything for granted or anything bad from that experience. It was a wonderful experience. And had I not gone through that process, I would not be able to be right here with you right now, having this level of conversation. I learned so much from that experience. I also I want to mention this, just popped into my head. I want to mention something. I couldn't figure out what I was feeling in that moment, in that shift where I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got a 6-figure job. What's going on? Why do I want to walk away from this? I don't get it. And I went and looked up what this is. Very common. It's called a golden handcuff. Have you heard that term before?
I have not. Talk more about that.
Yes, definitely look into it. So what it is basically you have the dream job, but it feels like a handcuff. And so you feel guilty. You want to walk away from it. It's like a pull. It's like a push and pull kind of situation. And apparently a lot of people deal with this. You and I are not the only individuals. And so a lot of people will sit in the space and stay in the space because they feel guilty for wanting more out of their life, not necessarily